Recently in the Helldivers subreddits, discussions about power creep have been cropping up, especially around the new shotgun, the sweeper. And so I wanted to look at a few of these posts and basically respond to them and sort of dispel some of these takes about power creep. And you might be getting ready to ask me in the comments,
who cares?
Well, it's quite simple because, the balance devs clearly do.
We did not test it enough, and the community was very fast in telling us, like, I think it's the first time maybe like they told us, guys, you buffed this too much.
Yeah, we went too far with the buffs.
Yeah. So we have had a surprising amount of people contacting us.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be discussing the sweeper, like I said, and whether it power creeps all of the shotguns in the game, because this is probably an important topic to the developers. They probably have these same conversations internally. It's probably one of the reasons why we never got to see the M90A become medium pen, and then they introduced the sweeper, which is sort of an M90A, where it has higher armor pen, but it has less damage and less stagger. So they did give it some trade-offs there. And so we must basically discuss why this topic is a little bit flawed to begin with. So first of all, to look at some of these threads, this one right here, power creep is on the horizon. In my opinion, there is a little bit of power creep caused by so many people would focus on spreadsheets more than gameplay. For instance, at launch, most guns were light pen, most enemies had clear weak spots, and you can hold your own. Then somehow the idea spread that light pen was essentially worthless. So what used to be a big trade-off, less need for accuracy, was compensated by lower overall damage and handling. And for some reason, they give the example of the Diligence and the DCS, even though the DCS has more damage and more armor pen than the regular Diligence. The regular Diligence has better handling and more ammo. And the fact that the DCS has more damage kind of doesn't matter because they both one-tap Devastators. So even though it has like 35 more damage, it really doesn't matter for the most part. The DCS is just a nice pick for some utility, shooting off factory strider chin guns and shooting down gunships with your primary. And then obviously the Liberator and the Lib Pen, which does have this trade-off that they mentioned. Now they've kind of been backed into a corner as they keep releasing medium pen weapons with none of the drawbacks. So they are claiming that, none of these new medium pen weapons have the drawbacks, which really just isn't true. They have other drawbacks on their own. And then they say equally there's a growing trend where people will over-exaggerate any perceived nerf or buff to enemies. This is resulting in buffs to light pen, which I agree with, but no change to enemies, which were designed with the light to medium trade-off in mind, which is something I disagree with. I don't think the enemies have very clear... I think the whole armor pen system in general does not actually have a lot of trade-offs in mind, and that is the issue. And a couple patches ago, which we will bring up here later on in the video, is where they tried to sort of make these trade-offs more obvious, although I don't think they did a very good job at it. And then he says, it's just my opinion, but I kind of wish this will be addressed and not exacerbate into essentially a superhero/super soldier fantasy. So this is where he's lost the plot. Then we've got this other post. The sweeper has power crept every single shotgun in the game. This thing has no downsides. It's genuinely an amazing shotgun, but the only thing outpacing it is the breaker has a magazine for quicker full reloads, and it doesn't have a ton of shells before a reload. So it has no downsides, but he literally just pointed out a downside. This thing has is a beast, and it's crazy that it's not genuinely terrible, but it's annoying that the rest of the shotguns in the game pale in comparison. Edit, the glaze divers are showing up. So I don't even think this guy is asking for the sweeper to get nerfed. I think he's trying to ask for the rest of the shotguns to get buffed. But, I'm going to just let you know, if you phrase your thread like this, it really does sound like the opposite. Then we had another post that went up a while ago. This is what I call power creep, ladies and gentlemen. And basically, he just posted a picture of the sweeper stats next to the M90A stats. A sad day for the Halo fans again. Just give the M90A medium armor pen and slightly higher damage, and it will be a side grade to the sweeper, as it will have a higher per shot damage but slower fire rate. An 8-gauge shotgun not having medium pen will forever be a weird decision for me. And before anyone asks, the Punisher's niche is crowd-controlled knockback. It's great on the Predator strain. With its high mag capacity and decent rate of fire, I can keep biospewers and stalkers at bay easily. And again, I actually do agree with this guy's post. I don't think he's trying to say that it's power, obviously he did say it was power creep, but I think you used the wrong word here. And again, the way you're phrasing this, you're only going to end up seeing sweeper nerfs. What irks me with the sweeper shotgun balance decision is that nobody cares if the Punisher or Slugger got power crept, only the Halo shotgun. So again, another post basically implying that the sweeper power crept every shotgun in the game. So first of all, let's talk about the power creep definition. Let's set up a little definition for ourselves so that we can get this conversation rolling. So power creep really doesn't have any set definition. You know, it's not like a word in the dictionary. It's basically something that has just existed within games. So what I would say is power creep is, number one, introducing a new item that is a flat upgrade compared to all of the old items. It literally raises the amount of power that was available to you before, and it sort of makes the old stuff obsolete. Now, another thing I would like to add here more specifically is that in older games I've played, a good example is Borderlands, and I've heard Destiny players complain about this, but some of the new content in Borderlands, such as when they introduced Mayhem mode, they literally introduced a whole mayhem mode where the enemies had 1,000% health scaling, and then some of the new DLC items were the weapons that were balanced around the new health scaling, and they had to do multiple patches to buff old stuff to even be able to do that content. And that's something that hasn't exactly happened in Helldivers. We are going to talk about some of the durable buffs they added to enemies recently, but these are only 20-30% durable buffs on some of the enemies. Like in Borderlands, when you would do mayhem mode, it would literally buff the enemies by 1,000 to 10,000%. So that is how I would loosely define power creep. So how does it apply to the sweeper and the rest of the shotguns right here and now? Now, first of all, some people would say that the sweeper is just flat out better than every shotgun in the game. Now, first of all, it has lower stagger than pretty much all the shotguns. I guess it's on par with the breaker shotguns, although the breakers have faster fire rate. Now, stagger is a very useful thing to have on weapons. It's a very useful thing to have with, going against a faction like the Predator strain. Now, do you need stagger to beat the Predator strain? No, absolutely not. But that's actually why the Predator strain is so well balanced, in my opinion, because it's built around the fact that a mechanic makes it a lot easier, like stagger, but it's not required, right? It's sort of like a soft loadout choice, whereas War Striders, on the other hand, are completely AP4. They require AP4. You literally can't kill them without it. So that's an example of a soft loadout choice versus a hard loadout restriction. And the second thing with the sweeper is the fact that it actually does have a pretty small magazine. It only has 7 shots in it. And personally, I don't even think the sweeper feels all that great if you're not wearing Siege Ready. It's fine without Siege Ready. You can definitely perform pretty well without Siege Ready, but once you actually put on that armor set, then you can actually keep the reloads flowing, and you get a lot more spare ammo as well. It doesn't have a ton of total ammo. Again, it's fine on its own without Siege Ready, but it does feel much better with it. So the sweeper actually does have a few downsides, although maybe they're not as big a deal as some of the other weapons' downsides. I will say that for sure. But is the sweeper power creep? Does it actually raise the level of power that existed before it came out? So first of all, let's look at the pick rates for some of the shotguns, because people said that the sweeper power crept all of the old shotguns in the game. So let's start back at Into the Unjust. Here is all of the shotguns. I think I didn't put the Halt on here. Just so you know, the Halt has an even lower pick rate. It was the bottom of the barrel. But the shotgun's pick rate, the most popular shotgun was the Breaker Incendiary at a 4% pick rate. And the least popular shotgun was the M90A on the patch that it came out at a 0.9% pick rate. If we go to Into the Unjust 4.1, we can see that the Cookout was the most popular shotgun with a 3.2% pick rate. The Breaker Incendiary fell off a little bit. I believe this was right after some of the fire nerfs, and also this was the patch that we were fighting Rupture Strain, or maybe they were offline at this point. I don't remember exactly. And the M90A still sat at a 1% pick rate. It basically had no change since the last patch. And then if we go to the patch after that, the Machinery of Oppression, we can actually see that the regular Breaker shotgun had a 3.8% pick rate. It was the most popular. And we can see that the least popular, still the M90A, actually got its pick rate cut in half. Keep in mind, this is still before the sweeper even came out. This is still the patch before the sweeper came out. It has a 0.5% pick rate. Now, a lot of people were complaining that the sweeper power crept the M90A, which, first of all, if you just removed the M90A from the game, 99% of people wouldn't even notice, because in all of these pick rate surveys, only 1% of players were even playing it. And then finally, we get to the patch with the sweeper. And I think people just look at these things as like one patch, because, you know, if I show you these pick rates, you would be like, damn, the sweeper really power crept all the other shotguns. But if you look at these pick rates, besides the sweeper, the most popular shotgun was the Breaker Incendiary at a 3.2% pick rate. If we looked at that first patch, it had a 4% pick rate, and it already fell off to 3% the very next patch, right? It already fell off from 4 down to 3 before it even happened. And the M90A, the least popular shotgun, had its lowest pick rate of all time. The sweeper being added to the game shaved off a whole 0.1% players. Now, it didn't actually, because these are surveys with like 10,000 or less entries to these surveys. Now, usually surveys do translate well, but I would say that there is a bit of variance, like a 0.4 in one of these surveys and a 0.5. I would just assume that that is just survey variance. And if you really compare these rates to the pick rates from beforehand, I would say the sweeper didn't even affect anything at all here. And that is because the shotguns are not the only primary weapon you can equip, right? Let's say, for argument's sake, that the sweeper is just the best shotgun in the game. Let's say, for argument's sake, it did power creep all the shotguns. Well, here's the thing. That literally doesn't matter. It could power creep all the shotguns, for argument's sake. It very well could. But that doesn't matter, because shotguns are not the only primary weapons in the game. Here is the full pick rates for the patch where Entrenched Division was, Coyote being the most popular, then the sweeper, Eruptor. People really seem to enjoy the new Stroker SMG, the Libpeen, then the crossbow, then the Trident. And after all these popular weapons, the other two Breaker shotguns are up there on this list. So personally, I just think that saying that the sweeper power crept all the shotguns in the game is really a bit of a disingenuous place to come from, because shotgun is not the only primary weapon. Right? When you have power creep, you have to actually raise the bar of power. You have to actually raise your power level. So if you're only comparing it to the other shotguns, which are just, you know, only a few of them are popular in the first place, and you make, like, you know, for argument's sake, let's say it is the most powerful shotgun, which I don't think I necessarily agree with. It's definitely in the top 2 or 3. But even if it is, it like, you know, like, here's the bar for power. Right up here, let's say that this is the top bar for power. All the shotguns are maybe somewhere around here, with a few of the shotguns up here. And where do we place the sweeper? Maybe A tier, maybe close to the top, right? But it didn't raise the bar for power because other primary weapons exist. You know, if your favorite gun is the Punisher and you pretty much only use shotguns in the game, and then the sweeper comes out and you're like, dang, why can't my Punisher be that strong? Then the sweeper power creeping the shotguns might mean something to you, but to the majority of players who are willing to use any category of weapon, that is what the sweeper's pick rates is affecting. The sweeper is taking away from the players who pick stuff like the Coyote or the Eruptor or the Trident. And if you look at the data, it's really not affecting the other shotguns' pick rates at all. And this is the same conversation that surrounded the Coyote because, people said that the Coyote power crept all of the assault rifles, when again, that just wasn't even true. The only popular assault rifle has ever been the Liberator Penetrator, which has a 54 average level who uses it. It was literally only popular because a bunch of new players used it. It had the lowest average level across the board. Like, for example, the Stoker has an average level of 102, the Coyote has an average level of 82, and the Lib Pen was all the way down at level 50. Most players already thought that all the assault rifles sucked before the Coyote came out. And the Coyote was never the strongest gun in the game. We already had both fire shotguns, which were both just arguably better on bugs already, until they did those weird fire status effect changes last year. But that's a topic for a different video. We had the Purifier, the Plasma Punisher, the Crossbow, the Eruptor. Now we have the Trident, the Double Freedom. People seem to really like the Stroker, and I do think that's a pretty cool SMG as well with the Underbarrel Flamer. We had arguably like 9 or 10 different guns that are better on bugs than the Coyote, 9 or 10 different guns that are better on bots than the Coyote. Heck, the regular Diligence is just straight up better than the Coyote on bots, if you can aim. The Coyote was just easier to use. Assault rifles are a very popular weapon choice, and it was generally powerful. I would have, when the Coyote came out, I would have put it at like the top of A tier. I didn't even think it was an S tier weapon. And it's the same thing right now for the Sweeper. So why are medium pen weapons so popular? I would simply put it that it is mainly this, enemies right here like this, the Hive Guard, and, let's extend this out to the Bile Spewer, the Devastator chest, because people like to make a lot of arguments, like a Devastator, for example, that, a Devastator can just get 2-shot by a Liberator. A Liberator actually has a TTK of, I don't know, like 0.2 seconds or something. Like, what's the TTK for a Liberator? It shoots how many bullets per second? It only takes 2 shots to kill a Devastator. Technically, it has a 0.2 seconds TTK on a Devastator. But that's not how it always plays out. Helldivers has always had an issue between, optimal time to kill versus suboptimal time to kill. And this is something that was brought up during the 60-day plan. Another very knowledgeable user brought this up. I didn't come up with this myself. But the optimal time to kill on a lot of enemies with a lot of the different weapons is often pretty fast. Like, it's actually not bad. What is bad is the suboptimal time to kills. And what made this even worse was some of the durable changes they did to enemies when they did that whole durable rebalancing where they said, we buffed a bunch of durable on the light pen weapons, but they also buffed a bunch of durable on the enemies, and it was really just a nerf patch disguised as a buff. One of these enemies being the Hive Guard, right? What is the major difference with light pen weapons versus medium pen weapons when you're shooting a Hive Guard? Well, a medium pen weapons just takes a couple shots to the head, 250 health, medium pen to the head, whereas for light pen weapons, you're shooting through double the health pool with the armor match penalty, and they buffed the Hive Guard's durability. Now, if you want to equalize light and medium pen weapons, then why would you buff the durability on the Hive Guard? Why would you even do that in the first place? It makes no sense. And just to put this into perspective, I posted a video, back when they did these durability changes. The Warriors' 20% durable buff was actually worse for the Liberator's buffed durable damage. So, the Liberator got its durable buffed in that patch, and Warriors got their durable buffed. And if you did the math from before to after, the Liberator actually got worse against Warriors. It used to be able to 2-shot them out to like, I forget exactly, out to maybe like 30, 40, 50 meters, something like that. And after the patch, it could only 2-shot them in the head out to either 15 or 20 meters. And that was a 20% durable buff. So a 30% durable buff on the Hive Guard's light pen sections is even worse. Now, for what it's worth, I just want to mention this real quick because I know I'm going to get comments about it. Yes, the Hive Guard's front legs are unarmored right now, but this is a bug. It is on the known issues list. Yes, you can just shoot hive guards in their legs and, shoot off both their legs and kill them that way. But it's not actually supposed to be working like that. Now, another thing I would like to just talk about briefly is why players find enemies like hive guards so annoying. Now, I remember a long time ago, I would watch videos and, someone would complain about a hive guard. And I didn't really get it at first either, because to me, I was like, hive guards are really not that threatening. If you really want to, you could just walk away from them. What I would normally do for hive guards I would kill every other bug. And then, what would be left over was like 10 hive guards. And I would just try to circle around them and get them all grouped up. And I would throw a couple grenades at them. That's how I usually dealt with them. So honestly, when this topic started getting brought up, I actually didn't get it either. I was like, well, why are people complaining about this enemy? And ultimately, what it comes down to is, imagine you load into a game with your M90A shotgun, you go ahead and land planet side, and what do you see when you land? 12 hive guards. Oh, great. Now I have to run around to the side of all. If I want to shoot my M90A and have fun with it, I have to run around to the sides of these hive guards and waste 2 shots into each of them. That's half the ammo of your M90A for a dozen hive guards. It's just not fun. It's not engaging. It's not a threatening enemy. You can literally just walk away from it. But most people don't come to this game to walk away from the enemies. They want to shoot them with the new weapons. And the main problem here, in my opinion, is the fact that after people started complaining about hive guards, I guess this made Arrowhead think it was a challenging enemy, it was an engaging enemy, and they created the hive guard seed, where there is literally a whole seed on bugs where they just spawn a bunch of hive guards. Now, I don't know who got this idea into their heads that a hive guard is a fun enemy to fight, or a difficult enemy for that matter. It's not. It's just annoying. People don't like fighting them, because they're boring. They don't even threaten you. If I were to ask you which bug is more difficult or challenging or threatening, either a hive guard or a hunter, 9 out of 10 people are going to say the hunter, because it can leap at you and freaking hit you. And guess what? If you get good against fighting hunters, it's fun. You can parry them. You can punch them out of the air if you get your timing down. Yes, they can kill you, but I can also kill them. And now to bring back what I said earlier about the predator strain, the predator strain, maybe some people don't like fighting them because they just aren't good at it. But what makes the predator strain well-designed difficulty is that it has a soft loadout check, stagger. Stagger is it makes fighting the predator strain a lot easier, bringing crowd control stratagems. But stagger is not necessary against the predator strain. One of my favorite weapons to bring against the predator strain is the stalwart, because it does such high damage so fast. Or, well, I guess I should say it has high DPS, that you can gun down the predator stalkers before they're able to run to you. But if they surround you, they will kill you. And that sort of high stakes gameplay is very fun for a lot of people who like bringing something like the stalwart on predator strain. So that's pretty much all my thoughts on this topic. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time.